this is the one. Looks like it's been given a right good whack. Got a couple of screws and nuts and bolts. Actually those nuts and bolts look like they're the wrong way around, but they might be awkward to fit in there any other way. Sorry about lighting here. For some reason my lighting system has given up the ghost. So okay, let's start. Well, first of all I'm going to unplug this. This is Y2. That's obviously going up around there. That unplugs out of that. I see it's got this tie up on, which is that stepper wire is almost going through. This fastening thing with adhesive panel does have adhesive on, no stickiness really in that adhesive, so it's lost its stickiness. And quite often you can get tie wraps undone if you stick something in and lift the catching tab. So I think push this direction to get but it's getting hold of it actually. There we are. So let's come off. So that leaves that this stepper motor now is free apart from the actual how it's connected up to the wire shaft. The first thing to do is actually unscrew these screws. Let's just tighten that. Need a small spanner. Here's the Z up, back up to the shafts in there. I'm going to have to because it isn't going to go. Extremely difficult to get in. So there's two washers on here. Going to the actual stepper, there's two washers. So you're going to be here. Get in. Go to plastic pads. I don't know if you can pick up any old pads. So they go to pads. It could be extremely difficult. Not trying to get this plastic out. Trying to get this. So there's a bracket there. Plastic. And like a U shape facing this way up. Yeah. Now this stepper should. There's like a pin thing, a bent pin thing in here. And some grub screws. So I'll move the camera around to show you that. So here is the stepper, it's not loose. See, there's like a metal bent pin going through there, and then there's a couple of grub screws on that shaft that connects it to the Y shaft. I imagine they're like Allen keys. I do have some Allen keys, so hopefully I've got the right size one. Right, first I'm going to try and bend this pin thing. Using some long nose pliers. Right, it's almost straight now, so I'm going to give it a yank. And while I'm stood here, I noticed there is a mark in the shaft here. Well, after a little bit of a twist about there, managed to get the pin out. Now I think I might be able to actually get that stepper off it. Yes, it's falling off. Go on. Oh, the actual shaft is bent. Bloody hell, that is bad, that. Try and get this in the camera. More back to front here when I'm looking in this, so you can see how badly that shaft is bent. Big groove in that, that's probably for the pin. That is bad, that. Here is the plate that goes on, and you can see the angle of that. There's some plastic chipped out of here. Don't think that's too bad, but that shaft is going to be a bugger because it's right on this like groove where I think that pin goes. I'm trying to bend that back, it's likely to snap here, but I'm going to try that. So looking up here, it doesn't look too bad. Let me move the camera a little bit. Looks pretty straight at first impressions, that is. I haven't had a close look, but this bracket that the stepper goes through, you see how badly misshapen that is. It's mainly this shaft. I have been trying to like bend it with some pliers, but every time I try to bend it, it's just like rotating. Might even have to get another stepper, but then it's going to have this part like ground out. First of all, I'm going to see what I can do with this. A few whacks with a hammer, I think. First of all, I'm going to try some pliers, but this is quite thick metal. I mean, it's not thin gauge metal, this. All of it is actually, the main parts there are a bit thinner. Right, I've managed to straighten it up just by pliers and such like, but still a bit out of square using this woodworking square, so I'm going to bend it a little bit more. Well, I've just been bending it a bit, some pliers on here and bending it out a little bit and such like. And now I think that's about as square as I go to get it. You always have to be careful with anything that's turning, because obviously it's going to like magnify. Now let me have a look at this. What I think I'm going to do is get what I always call a mole wrench, vice grips, and squeeze that actually, and hopefully just by squeezing it it's going to bend it straight, or at least straight enough to be used. That is absolutely ridiculous, that. I'm not blaming the seller. So this is why I call them mole wrenches. Let's make. That's that one. Oh yeah, that one is as well. So the idea here is almost get this in the mole wrench, this shaft, like that way, and squeeze it. Hopefully that will bend it straight. Have to be careful that this doesn't snap. Can't really heat it up because there are magnetics in here. When you heat metal up, it can damage magnets. So it's just squeezing that. Now I have got my grandson here, so well, that wasn't too successful. I might have straightened it out a little bit, but now what I tend to do is use this hammer, like a club hammer, as an anvil, put the shaft on there and whack it with another hammer. Obviously it's going to want to turn, but try not to hit it too hard, I don't think. Last thing I want is that to snap. So let's, yes, it is getting in. I'm going to use this lighter weight hammer actually. So it's like it's bending like upwards, if you get me, that way, and then I'm whacking it down, just tapping it, not too hard. That certainly is straightening, I think. There we go. So a bit more knocking actually on the edge of this hammer. So turning it and such like, it's come out. I think that's about as straight as I'm going to get it. It does look a little bit twisted actually, this flat edge here. Looks like it's a little bit twisted. But as you see, that is a great deal straighter than it was. Still a little bit of an angle over that way, so I might give it a few more light taps. So using my square here, it's just lucky that there is a bit of a lip on this square, and that just goes over this sort of raised edge on the stepper there, just about. See, it is a little bit out of line. That's not too bad. I mean, I can't really get this square totally square, it's only on a very short piece of flat metal there. Compared with how it was, that was ridiculous. I think you can see that it is a bit of a bend there. I think not much, so possibly a few more light taps and it'll be good enough. As I'm using this edge to get in at that sort of lower shaft, and sort of twisting that a little bit. So here is a sort of plastic thing that went on the top, and as you see, that is broken in half. Of course, having a printer, you can always print out a new one, but I think that will hold it, still hold it enough to do the job. Right, now I'm basically going to have a look at the shaft here, see if I think this is bent at all, because whatever caused that, it must have took a big whack to bend it like it was. The shaft and the bracket in a way, both together. I think this shaft is okay, so far as I can see. One going backwards and forwards. So as I'm turning the shaft, the whole shaft is coming like out actually. It's not moving the camera, but then I turn this clockwise. You can see, just turn that anti-clockwise. And every so often probably doing the other Z motor the other side. Now if you listen you might hear it squeak actually. So it does need some oil, but it seems to me like these shafts here have not been bent. That's a little bit I mean, I don't even know what that, oh yes, because I took the bracket off obviously. So it's only that plastic bracket in a way that's holding this down shaft here on. So I'm basically going to mount the stepper back onto this bracket and then mount it to this side piece here and push it into that hole, and we'll see how well it goes. Obviously putting the pin back in. So here it is. Now what I've noticed is actually these nuts might almost look all the same size, but some are slightly different size to the others it seems, because I was bolting this in and this sort of bolt was just turning, the nut wasn't gripping on it. So you can see that has a chunk. This was cracked. I have glued it with just some super glue. We've still got a chunk missing out of that, and that's where like the main riding Z shaft comes into. So that's not a good thing. Anyway, I'm going to get this screwed back to the bracket, well, the machine itself, and then I'll come back. So I fitted it, but it is out of line. Excuse me, where are we? So there's a stepper, and if you see, this isn't totally tightened yet. I'll grab this and start turning it. See how that motor's like moving about. So even that small amount has impacted it. I don't know what to do about that. I might just tighten it all up and see if I can get away with it. Well, no. So you tighten that up a bit. Let me try and reach in here. Watch what happens as I turn this Z carriage. See, that's still moving about. It's moving about a hell of a lot. But every so often it'll almost like clump and click. And that's going to go all along the X carriage. While I'm here, see how this shaft has these marks on. Does have other marks somewhere else. So that is just not straight enough. And that's almost definitely the shaft of the stepper motor. But I'm going to put it back together anyway, and we'll see what happens when I come to try it out. Right, I'm going to see about putting the extruder on it. It looks like there's a few marks on this side, so I'm assuming that the extruder actually goes onto here. It's got a couple of almost hooks on it. Well, that's the only way. There's almost definitely a part missing out of here, by the way. There's that hook's on there. Obviously that's loose. I might be wrong about this because I know there's a part that you can almost like lift up and lock on, because the filament sort of comes up here. Try and move this board and tube around a bit. And something like this actually notches into there. Yes, it does. And then this stepper, E for extruder, on this way. Look for the bump actually the letters line up. See here, click it together. There's a like Y stop there. I think that's what that Jubilee clip's down here for, is to stop that like Y stop just sliding down, because all that's holding it on is one of these tie wrap things, so it would easily slide up and down on there if it wasn't for that. Is that all that's to that? Now this, that should basically clip into there, because under here is the hub bolt. There's a nut missing off this thing here, and I haven't seen it, so I'll need to find a nut for that. Anyway, I'm going to like pause a bit. I have to watch because I haven't got much battery on this. This stepper is also at a slight angle, like down at the, what I'm going to call the front, the one with the pulley on it over here. So I'm basically going to twist this, being careful because there are plastic bits here. Put this on this metal bracket, so I'm hoping it should be alright. Look, a little bit more I think. I might actually get pliers and twist it. Yeah, I think that's almost spot on, just a small amount more. Now that belt goes that way. It might be a little bit loose, it's not too bad, so I'm going to leave that. Right, look again at that, maybe twist a little bit more. It's not much now, about 1 degree. I have to watch because there is a plastic piece almost behind it. Being at an angle like that, it's going to make the belt want to move to one end or the other. Right, that seems okay, I think. You might notice that I showed you earlier that the hot end was a bit loose, so actually I've had a look at this and it's going to need a washer to sort of get it tightened up reasonably tight, so I'm going to find a washer and then I'll come back. It's getting a bit dark, so basically just got a washer here that fits on there. Put that on the top. Screw back into the hot end. Yes, that's going to be tighter. You have to be careful sometimes tightening up any nuts on machines like this, but particularly on the hot end, because you can snap like what they call a throat, where the filament goes into if you're not careful. So I think right, that's reasonably tight, that's pretty solid there. Basically I'm just going to wrap these wires around here a bit, then I'll come back because I'm going to probably power it up, well, as soon as I sort out some of the wiring.